Hey, this is Andy Brown. In this fall long, we're going to take a look at launching 3 different instances to utilize user data in 3 similar but different ways. In my AWS examples repository, I'm going to hit period to open it up in github.dev. And I'm going to go take a look here at our EC2 user data because I have one for PS1, so PowerShell, a bash script, and then Cloud Config, which is a YAML file. So I think knowing that there is a lot of options is really good. When I made the lecture content, I was not aware that PowerShell could be utilized. I decided to put this in here. I really tried to make this work. It does the exact same thing as the other ones, but for whatever reason, I cannot access the website. I mean, it might work, but we'll see, okay? I did run this lab just a moment ago, and it completely failed because I did not realize that I did not have an internet gateway attached to my VPC. So now I'm hoping that this time around I'm going to have much better luck. But before we get started, let's just make sure, since I'm paranoid here, look at your default VPC and just make sure that you have an outbound connection. If you checkbox this and go to resource map, you should see it mapped over to here. If we go to our route table and go to our routes, we should have a route out to the internet because we're going to need that. Let's go back over to EC2 and I'm going to launch our first instance. So here we'll go ahead and launch our Windows server. So let's just say Windows Apache to PowerShell because that is what we're doing. We'll choose Windows. I'm going to go with a T2 medium. Even though they say you can launch it with a T2 micro, I cannot imagine it working. If you are afraid of any kind of spend, do not launch this and just skip this part of it and do the other two. But I'm going to go ahead and launch that because I'm not worried about spend. Make sure you're in your default VPC for this one. I'm going to create a new security group. I'm going to call this one Apache SG. This will be for RDP, and I'll also add in SSH for the Linux servers. And I also want to open this up to HTTP. We don't need HTTPS, but I'm going to add it anyway just because I'm a bit paranoid here that might break this lab if I don't add it. So I'm just looking for HTTPS. There we go. And then we'll go down below to advanced details. I'm going to select the EC2 SSM role. We set this up so many times throughout this course. So if you do the VPC section, we'll definitely do that. But it's simply we're adding a policy to a role, and that one is for the SSM managed core policy or role. So down below here, we're getting ready for our Windows server. So let's go over here and grab this script. And so it turns out that if you want to put PowerShell, you just have to have these tags in front of it. And let's just talk about some of the stuff here. So the first thing that's very important is check what version of PowerShell you're using. Turns out that that Windows-based server, the latest one that AWS has, is running PowerShell 5.1 Desktop Edition. The latest version of PowerShell is like PowerShell 7, and PowerShell changes quite a bit per version, and so you have to do some tweaks to make it work. We're downloading a binary from the Apache Lounge, and so this is version 2.4. Then we are specifying where the zip path is going to be when we download it. Normally you use invoke web request to download files. The issue was that we're getting a 308 on the redirect, because that's the error it throws if it has been redirected. But even though I added this additional flag to follow the redirection, it refused to do it. So Bako, my co-founder, who's really good at Windows and PowerShell, pulled up this older way of doing it where you use the web client, or alternate way of doing it where you use the web client to download it. Then we extract it out into our C directory, which is going to actually place it into a folder called Apache 24, which will contain everything like the configuration, the logs, and everything. So if you're wondering where to look for stuff, it's going to be in that folder. So we extract it, we delete the original zip. This is not something that matters, so I'm just going to comment this out, but this is if we want to do additional monitoring down below. So I'll just comment that out. Then we specify the path for the binary, and then we are starting the process and providing arguments to start it. Here I had it if I wanted to change the port from 80 to 8080, because sometimes Windows servers have things running on port 80, and so you'll have a very hard time stopping those other ones. Again, I do not expect this one to work, but I just wanted to install and make sure it's running to checkbox that we were able to use PowerShell. Then we start the service, okay? So we'll go ahead and, again, copy this, and we'll paste it in again because I did take out one thing there. And I'm going to go ahead and launch this instance. Oh, and here I'm just going to choose from anywhere. If you're really security concerned, you can just choose your own IP address, but I'm going to go ahead and do that. And so we'll launch that instance. I'm going to go back over to here, and you can see I have ones from prior that failed, but this one is starting up. We'll go ahead and launch our Linux one. So we'll do Linux, Apache, bash, and we'll let it choose Amazon Linux 2023 T2 Micro. We do not need a key pair. This time I'm going to select the existing security group and checkbox Apache SG. We'll go down below here. We will choose our IAM role to be this one, or instance profile to be the SSM role one. And then down below, we'll go over to our bash script, and we'll copy this. And you should know bash scripting pretty well in my courses because I do a lot of it. So we're going to update. We could do an upgrade and an update, but we update our packages so we have the latest. Then we install Apache, which is called HTTPD. There is like sometimes Apache too for different Linux OS distributions, but for Amazon Linux 2023, it uses HTTPD as the package name. Then we're going to use systemctl to start it, enable it, allows it so that if we reboot the system, it will automatically start up the service for Apache. We'll create our custom HTML file so that we have something a little bit different than other than the default one. We don't have to do that. We'd serve up a default page, but it's nice to change that out. And then we restart it, which actually is not necessary, but it's in the script anyway. We'll go ahead and copy this. And I'm going to go ahead and, I guess we already did that. And we'll paste it in. And we'll go ahead and just double check, make sure there is no major mistakes when copying and pasting. We'll go ahead and launch that instance. I'm going to go over to my instances. I'm going to launch another one. This one's going to be Linux, Apache, cloud config, because we're going to use the cloud config, which is for cloud init, using YAML to configure the startup here. So I'm going to go and proceed without a key pair. We'll select an existing one. We'll go all the way down the bottom here, go to advanced details, and we'll select SSM EC2 role. And then this time we're going to use this script. So let's talk about this script here for a moment. It is a little bit more convenient than using the bash script, but that's only if you understand what's going on here. First, we're updating our package manager. We're upgrading packages. And then we're going to install the HTTPD package. We'll write this file here, make sure that it is accessible with the proper permissions. And then here we are starting, enabling, restarting. Again, the restart's not necessary, but it's part of that script. So we'll go ahead and launch this instance. And we'll wait for these all to pass their status checks. Give this a refresh. You'll have to hit refresh to see what's going on here. But this will take a little bit of time, okay? All right, so our status checks are done. Let's take a look here at the Linux Apache bash script that we have. And we will go ahead and open that up. We'll take a look also at the other Apache Linux one here. And one thing that we'll have to note is just make sure you swap out the HTTPS for HTTP because it's running on port 80. And so those both work. If you're running into issues with these, you can open this up in these things in Sessions Manager here, and you can run these line by line and figure out what the issue is. At least for the bash script, not so much for cloud config. If you wanted to debug this, I suppose that you'd have to look at the cloud init directory and see how that installation information works. There are logs for that, but I'm not covering that here today. But anyway, these two work, so we're in great shape. The real question is, did the PowerShell one work? Or sorry, yeah, the PowerShell one. And so I'm going to open this one up. If it works, I'll be really happy, but I really don't expect it to work, as I found this one to be the most difficult to figure out. And does it resolve? I don't think it's going to resolve. But what we can do is just go connect to it, because I just want to show you, like, you can connect. And if you wanted to, you could step through it and debug it. So, you know, for this one in particular, and you have to know PowerShell a little bit to know what's going on. But one thing we might want to know is, like, is it running? So we could type in get service, and that will list all of our services. Did this resolve? No, it did not. Nope. And so I could go here and say get service Apache 2.4. It says that it's running. So the other thing that we could do is we could go into the C directory here and then into the Apache 2.4. It's 2.4, but it's 2.4. That's what it means. And you can see we have htdocs, other things like that. So we could go into the logs, and then we could cat out if there's any errors. And none of this indicates that there are any errors. These all say warnings, notices. So these aren't errors. Then we have access logs. Okay, and so access logs would be what we'd expect to see if this was being hit. So, there could be things like changing the port over to port 8080, which I could try that right now, but I don't think it's going to fix it. Right, so if I do this and hit enter, and then I go back a directory, and then we cd into the conf directory, because just look what it's doing. It's saying open this file, replace 80 with 8080, right? And so I'm just going to cat out that file, and I have to scroll all the way back up to see where that changes. And if I go here, it now says 8080, right? So I could try restarting this. I'd have to open up port 8080 on the security group, but let's just see what happens. I can just copy this here. We'll paste it in. And I'm just going to say stop service. And we'll go back here. And then I will start service. And then we'll go over to our security group here. And then I'm going to add an inbound rule on TCP for 8080 from everywhere. Again, not expecting this to fix, but just showing you how you would actually go around debugging these issues. And if we go back here and hit enter, I'd have to actually put 8080 on the end here. And let's see if that resolves the issue. So notice it's not resolving. So, if you wanted something to do to test your skills, you could try to fix that. But again, I just wanted to show that the PowerScript script was actually working, as we just want to know that we can execute those. So I'm going to go ahead and just close these out. This is all done here. Did I make a change? Probably. So minor change for future people. Minor change. And I'm going to go ahead and spin this stuff down. So we'll go over to our instances here. And I'll just checkbox all three of these. And we'll say stop. When they're all stopped, you can go ahead and delete your security groups. It doesn't matter if your security groups kick around, but you can't delete it while they are stopping. You have to wait till they're 100% stopped. But I tend to go in here and try to clean up my security groups as much as I can, because they just get overwhelming after a while. But I'll see you in the next one, okay? Ciao.